Yes, it was a fine season last year for Grandy, but what about this year? Well, today, under perfect conditions in Beaver Creek, Colorado, it's the men's giant slalom, the first race of the season. Hi there, ski racing fans, and welcome to Sportsnet's continuing coverage of the World Cup Alpine Circuit. Jerry Dobson here along with our analyst Brian Stemmel. Glad to have you with us and welcome to today's show. In just a moment, it's off to Beaver Creek where we will have the first men's giant slalom of the season. And Brian, this is great news because in Europe, the weather's warm, there's no snow, they're canceling races, but things are great in Beaver Creek.
They're fabulous here today, and they had to cancel the race at the beginning of the year in Solden, Austria, and it's just been terrible, horrendous weather over in Europe. Canceled the races for next week, but here in Beaver Creek, perfect conditions today and great conditions yesterday for the downhill.
All eyes on the American superstar Bode Miller, who had an off season by his standards last year, started the season poorly this year, but came back with the downhill win yesterday. He looks like he's ready to roll now.
He finally does, and there were big questions when I was in Lake Louise talking with him there. I just didn't know about equipment, was really unsure of where he stood as far as downhill was concerned, but man, did he put on a great show yesterday. Blasted out of the start, right here down the brink on this Beaver Creek course. Almost hit a course worker because the course worker dropped his start list and fell, and Bode Miller managed to avoid that disaster and just put on a great performance. The light wasn't great yesterday, but man, Bode Miller put it on the line. You can see him just holding his tuck, trying to stay as low as possible, coming over that big finish, jump through the finish on his new, brand new head skis, won the race.
Now, this is the same Bode Miller who struggled at the beginning of the season by finishing 29th at Lake Louise in the downhill, but he's had success at Beaver Creek. Most recently, you know, I talked about how he had a bit of a struggle last year. However, he did win the giant slalom on this same course last year. So all is not lost for Bode Miller. Expect bigger and better things from him again this year, but there's something about this course that he does like, no question about it.
Well, finally, he's turned it around, and they were really concerned with Bode Miller. New sponsor, new equipment, and a new attitude for Bode Miller. And last year, he skied such a great race here in the giant slalom. He was really on at the beginning of the year, and he said this year I have to peak in the middle of January and February and rather than the beginning of the season. But we saw a fabulous run from him yesterday, and I think today we're going to see the same thing in similar conditions as it was last year when Bode Miller won the giant slalom and his buddy Darren Rolfs was second. They flip-flopped it the day before in the downhill, but he seems to be on, seems to have this new energy and resurgence and confidence in his equipment, which I think is the most important for him.
Well, it's a big, strong American team once again, but how about the Canadian team? Well, it's a big Canadian team as well. 7 skiers will hit the gate. Now, with a closer look at the leader on the team, here is Thomas Grandy in today's edition of Go for Gold.
A big part of it is, you know, the results, you know, that I've been getting better. You know, my rankings continue dropping. Like, I keep getting, every year I'm a step closer to the top. So that's a big part of the motivation.
What about the younger guys in the team? Do you look back and see yourself when you were that age? Do you see a little bit of you in them right now?
I do see a lot of myself in these kids coming up. You know, they're keen, they're hungry, they want to work hard, and it's great to see that. You know, it's great to see that there's a lot of young guys coming up that are hungry to have success, and I think that's what's really making a great team.
Did the 3 podiums in a row after the Olympics really surprise you?
Well, I think that after the Olympics, I felt a big weight lift off my shoulders. I think the Olympics were a big disappointment. You know, I think I prepared as well as I could, and some things just didn't come together as I wanted to, and you know, those days didn't happen. But after that, I really relaxed, and you know, I just enjoyed the sport for what it was, and those 3 podiums were really were unexpected, really. I mean, I was sitting at the closing ceremonies with Sarah, and I was exhausted, like absolutely exhausted after the Olympics, and I told her I want to go home. I said I want to go home, rest, relax, and then come back for the finals and try and get a couple good races under my belt. And she's like, no, you're not coming home. You're going to Japan, you're going to Korea, you're going to finish the season, because at that point I was seriously considering retirement. So she convinced me to go there, and when I got there, I had this renewed energy, this renewed fire, and I had, you know, those 3 slalom podiums in a row, which was an excellent way to finish the season, and what really motivated me, inspired me to continue on this year.
How do you feel going into this season, and what do you expect from yourself?
I've been relatively fast compared to the last few years in training, compared to my teammates, so it's been really encouraging for me to be fast in training, which is something I struggled with the last few years. I was good in races, but not good in training, so I mean, I hope that pattern doesn't reverse itself, but to me, if I can be fast in training, I think I can be even faster in racing. So it gives me a lot of confidence, and I've had fun because I haven't been, frustrated in training with slower times. I've been really competitive with the guys.
Well, these results last season for Thomas Grandy means he had probably the best season he's ever had on the circuit. He finished 5th in the overall standings for the slalom, 6th in the giant slalom based on those results. So a terrific year for Thomas Grandy. And you know better than anybody, Brian, you've talked to him about how happy he is, and you could see it in that interview. He's going to be a proud new papa in February. He had a great season last year. No wonder he's so motivated this year.
Right, he's just calm and relaxed, and everything's coming easy to him now. And when you have a lot of success and you have some wins and you are winning, you are making some money for that new baby, you want to continue on. And having his best season last year was fabulous. And he is teaching the younger guys what it really takes to win on the World Cup circuit. And Thomas Grandy knows that. He's the first Canadian that's ever won in the technical events and had such a great year last year. I'm glad to see him go on, and I expect big things from him again this year.
Well, I mentioned off the top of the show, it's a big Canadian team that he leads this weekend at Beaver Creek. And how big is it? Well, also on the ski team right now, Francois Bourque will be skiing today. Eric Gay, Stefan Gay, John Kuchera, J.P. Watt, Julien Cousineau, all taking the start in the first giant slalom of the season at Beaver Creek. So let's take you there now and get this one underway. Beautiful day. You can see a little bit of fog hanging around, but nothing to be worried about. The conditions are absolutely great. A little on the cool side, but not to worry, as we are going to get this one underway. So let's go. First of 2 runs, of course. First skier out of the gate. This is David Simoncelli of Italy, 27-year-old, who has won a couple of times at the GS discipline on the World Cup circuit, so you can expect more from this guy. So let's have a look and set it up, Brian.
And this is on the bottom 2/3 of the downhill where we saw Bode Miller win that run yesterday. Set by the Austrians. A pretty tight set this first run, and you can see a lot of new snow in the Beaver Creek area, a lot of snow in Colorado. Unlike Europe, which is brown over there, 15 degrees, and no hope of having a race next weekend, and maybe not even before Christmas now. But they have to concentrate on this very flat section of the course, got to carry some speed out of the top turns, and then over these rises, got to make sure you're moving your hips forward. Normally land right about there on the downhill. You've already made 3 turns in the giant slalom. You can see how turny this Austrian set is on the first run. Just a beautiful shot coming down the bottom of the downhill. Don't want to see too many plumes of snow shooting out from the racer's skis. You want to make nice, clean turns and try and keep that sliding to a minimum, but with such a tight set, it's difficult to do. Not a bad run, though, for Simoncelli. One of the guys who has big potential on the Italian ski team.
Well, still relatively young at age 27, so Simoncelli, first man through, safely down the mountain, under great conditions here at Beaver Creek. Now, here we go. We've heard from him, and we know what kind of a season he had last year. Started the year with an 8th at the slalom at Levy, and now here he goes right now, 3rd out of the gate.
Man, it's amazing. Grandy's turned into a slalom skier now, as opposed to the giant slalom skier where we saw him on the podium in Park City way back in 1997, but really has brought that technical expertise that he's learned from giant slalom, applied that in the slalom, and been on the podium 3 times in a row now at the end of last season, and a good result in Levy, Finland to begin with.
Well, he actually finished 5th in the slalom standings last year and 6th in the GS, so it's true. He has actually become a slightly better slalom skier than GS skier.
Got to move the hips forward there. Sometimes Grandy pivots his skis in these difficult sections. Now he's letting it go a little bit. 0.4 of a second back at the interval. We'll be a little disappointed with that, but you can make up some time down here in the bottom. Really important in giant slalom, and especially for Grandy, to move his feet quickly. You get a little lazier when you get a little older, and whoa, you got to be quick down here. Hang on.
Big mistake there for Thomas Grandy, right down near the bottom. That will cost him some crucial fractions right there as he is through. But look at that, 0.8 of a second behind is Thomas Grandy from Davide Simoncelli. So let's have a look again here, see if we can figure out what happened to him.
Well, just bad direction to the left coming off that first bump. Didn't give himself enough room, and then really tight on that blue gate. Got his right ski way up in the air and down in that soft snow. Thomas knows that's not the place to be. It's a little slower down there when you get off to the side of the track.
We talked about Simoncelli at 27 years old and one of the big young stars on that team. Here's Massimiliano Blardone, also 27 years old and also with a couple of giant slalom wins under his belt in past years on the circuit.
I just love watching these young Italians, just these little guys who blast down the hill, just lots of energy, lots of spunk, and became a very consistent giant slalom skier last year. Hey, he finished second in the standings. So he really knows what it takes to be on top of that podium. Look at that. 0.3 of a second lead there. That's where you have a little bit of time to breathe, a little bit of time to think of what you've done before. Now concentrate on these steeper, icier parts down here at the bottom.
Blardone chasing his teammate Simoncelli and doing a very good job of it. Nearly 0.4 of a second lead, so Blardone really fast here right now.
And just quick from edge to edge, moving his feet from side to side, getting those skis carving perfectly around each turn. That's what we have to do. Whoa, a little bit of air off that Golden Eagle jump at the bottom. Didn't seem to affect him too much. He had the right direction.
Similar place to where Grandy had a bit of a mistake, and boy, look at that for Blardone. Very quick, 0.4 of a second, almost half a second lead on Simoncelli. So when we come back, we will see the rest of that Canadian crew. We are well underway with the first run here in the men's giant slalom in Beaver Creek.
Sportsnet, brought to you by Visa. Find out how Visa supports our Canadian athletes at visa.ca. And by Bombardier, sponsor of the Canadian Alpine Ski Team, and proud of it.
Look at the crowd in Beaver Creek, Colorado. We are at the site of the first men's giant slalom race of the season on the World Cup circuit. Underway with the first run. You've seen Thomas Grandy, who made a mistake down near the bottom. And we've got a large Canadian contingent. Let's continue on with that now. Number 5 out of the gate, this is Francois Bourque, 22 years old now, from Quebec. Bourque was 12th in the Super Combined, which is a new discipline this year. Brian, I'm not sure why they've opted to actually add races.
They added it on Thursday, and what it is portion of the downhill they run in the morning, and then they run one run of slalom in the afternoon. And Bourque finished 12th in that race won by the Norwegian Askell Lund Svindal. And I don't really like it. It's kind of like some of the best of the mediocre guys are doing well there. I just like to see more downhills or more giant slaloms, stuff that's more exciting. But this is a FIS's new baby that they're calling it, and they hope this is going to provide a bit more entertainment and more advantage for some of the guys who don't ski the best downhill, don't ski the best slalom, but are kind of good at both.
I guess it's a way to try and encourage the best to ski everything, because obviously if you're the best slalom skiers are not the best downhillers, and to combine it into one event is kind of a strange one. But at any rate, Bourque did not too badly, finishing 12th in that event in a race, as you said, won by Svindal of Norway. So here's Bourque through, and he's 0.8 behind.
And don't forget, Francois Bourque was 6th here last year, so he's got the potential to do it, and he's one of those all-rounders that can do it, and a guy like Bode Miller who can as well.
Well, we've talked enough about Bode Miller, 3rd overall last year, but had trouble picking up victories, and there was a problem there. No win in downhill at all, although he won on this mountain last year in the giant slalom.
And a big mistake out of the start for Miller, but that's the kind of guy he is. Skis on the edge a little bit. He's going to make those mistakes, and whoa, a direct line in through that blue gate, but manages to pull it out, and he's 0.3 behind because of those couple mistakes, but looked like he carried a lot of speed onto this flat, and that's what you have to do in that section of the course.
Now, the other technical race earlier this season in a slalom, he actually didn't qualify for a second run, so it's been a strange start to the season, not qualifying in a slalom and then coming up with a win in a downhill.
See the bird fly in his view there, the birds of prey course. Didn't have to avoid that like he did the course worker yesterday. That was unbelievable. Almost ran into him and managed to avoid him and win that race. And what a victory it was for Bode Miller. Saw him sipping champagne on the podium after, something that they're not allowed to do with the coaches this year because of the ski team agreement that they signed, trying to put the reins on Bode Miller, trying to hold him back from the partying a little bit.
Now, that's just the U.S. ski team, obviously, trying to put a short leash on Bode Miller, but he looks good here as he has the lead by a small margin, 9/100ths, but Bode Miller looks in good shape and in good form here today. All right, the 25-year-old native of Mont-Tremblant, Quebec, this is Eric Gay.
I think a pretty disappointing week last week in Lake Louise for Eric Gay. Not the top of his game, and just doesn't really seem to be on it, but trying to be an all-around skier. He's gained over 400 points on the World Cup circuit last year. That's why he's allowed to start number 32. Just out of that, the first top 2 seeds, and whoa, huge difficulties there. Definitely more of a downhiller in Super G, but you need the good technical base to be good in those 2 disciplines, and that's why Eric's racing in this event today and hopefully building on some technical advantage that he needs over those next couple of downhills and Super Gs.
Well, not a great time, 2.8 back, so Eric Gay just feeling his way down the GS course. Now here's John Kuchera, 37th out of the gate, but what a great story he was last week with that win in the Super G.
Was that unbelievable or what? I think not only everybody was shocked, but John Kuchera was more shocked, and he's out very quickly in this giant slalom. But hey, he's got 1 victory under his belt already this season, so fabulous day, fabulous year for John Kuchera.
And a quick out here in the giant slalom for Kuchera, but he's still a happy guy after what happened last week. Meanwhile, this is the 20-year-old Stefan Gay on course now.
Now the younger brother of Eric, and I had a chat with him last week, and he's a real hard-working kid, wants to learn from his older brother and kind of break out of the spotlight of being Eric's younger brother, but it's hard to when you ski similarly, you have great technique, and you grew up together.
There's Gay through, just over 3 seconds back. He won't get a second. This is JP Roy, wearing bib number 55. 24 years old, not 25 years old, pardon me, from Saint-Flavie, Quebec now.
And every time I see JP, it just kind of reminds me of Joe Nieuwendyk, or just somebody who always seems to be injured or seems to be sick and just can't really shake that. He's such a great skier, good technique, has had success on the World Cup circuit, but just seems to be injured or sick all the time. And it's tough to get good training, and there he goes again, out once more. Well, you don't have that technical practice in from the summer training. Hard to be confident going into the race, and he just chose the wrong direction off that blue gate there.
57th out of the gate now is Julien Cousineau of La Chute, Quebec, the last of the group of 7 Canadians starting this GS race in Beaver Creek.
Sitting back a little bit as well. You got to get the direction proper out of this red and into that blue. He's done it all right. This is a great base for the Canadian team. They have a lot of guys in this race, and a lot of that credit has got to do with Thomas Grandy and his success. And I believe if Thomas Grandy hadn't won those couple of races last year and didn't have a lot of success at the beginning of his career in the technical disciplines, you wouldn't be seeing these young guys doing so well. And I think that's got a lot to do with Thomas Grandy and his ability to hang in there and be successful.
Well, Brian, there were years when Thomas Grandy was the only Canadian making the start in a GS or a slalom. And now look at what we've got. 7 of them getting it in the first run here.
And I think that's a big reason why he's still hanging around. He loves being around the guys. He loves having that team atmosphere. And he celebrates the team victories, even if he isn't the top Canadian. And it's just a great atmosphere in the team right now. You got some good coaching, some new coaches in there. Paul Christophic doing a great job, and these guys trying to bust into the top 30 and get that second run.
Well, there's Cousineau, and he won't get a second run that far behind. However, a couple of Canadians will. Here's the way the first run has finished. Bode Miller on top. It looks like he's back in the GS and ready to defend his title here. Francois Bourque, the top Canadian, finishing 12th out of the top 30, and also getting a second run for the Canadians in this one is Thomas Grandy, and the others, the 2 Gay brothers, Cousineau, Kuchera, and JP Roy, all not getting a second run today. So the first run is done, and when we come back, it's for all the marbles. It will be the second run in the men's giant slalom from Beaver. Back at Beaver Creek, Colorado, as we are set to start the second run now under absolutely gorgeous conditions. Look at that blue sky as we get set to go. And racing first, 30th after the first run. Remember, it's the top 30 in reverse order for the second run. This is 27-year-old Marcus Larsson of Sweden.
And starting way back on that first run, just snuck in there to gain that all-important first position on the second run, and he's skiing on a buffed course right now. Whoa, extremely wide coming into the flat section of the course. That may cost him some time. When you're skiing on nice, perfect conditions like this, you have to take advantage of it. 11 out of the first 45 guys didn't finish, so good opportunity for Larson to put on a show here.
Larson comes into this season as a winner in the World Cup circuit. He won a slalom last year at Åre. He's proven he can do it, at least in slalom, but what about GS?
And what about the Swedish program? Fredrik Nyberg had to retire because he had sustained a knee injury in training in the fall, had to retire. I was in the Calgary airport with the downhiller Patrick Järben. He was looking for a ride to Lake Louise because the Swedes don't have enough money and he's on his own. And what did he do there? Finished second to John Kacher in the Super G. So Swedish program's got to get their act together and start supporting these guys. Look at that, 62, Marcus Larsson, 30th in the first run. See if that's going to hold up now after the second run.
Did you charge him for the ride, or was it free?
My car was too small. I couldn't fit his downhill
there
skis
you
in
go.
it.
All right, up next, 29th after the first run. One of the youngsters on the circuit this year, 21-year-old Steve Messillier of France.
On a tight budget, Jerry went with the compact car. Poor Patrick Järben had to get another ride from the airport.
Messillier off to a good start here in the second run.
Well, and he really has to. He's had 64 Europa Cup starts and only 6 on the World Cup circuit, so he's just getting a taste of what it's like to be with these big guys and skiing really nicely. Nice, solid, aggressive skiing, good and forward, not making any mistakes. Let's see what he does.
Well, he has nudged out Larson for the lead right now. It's early, remember, and the guys with the fastest run still to come as we work our way down. And speaking of that, let's do it right now. Alessandro Roberto was 23rd after the first run. He's from Italy.
This course is a little bit more open. Seems like on that first run, the guys had trouble finding the rhythm, finding the right line on the course, and that's what giant slalom skiing is. You have to get into a good rhythm, just like you're dancing, back and forth, quick on those edges. Roberto's really doing a fine job of it here. Look at that, almost half-second lead in these dark conditions down the pitch.
Well, the light really changes, doesn't it, after they go over that pitch with the sun up there behind them.
Yeah, these north-facing slopes stay nice and hard for the racers. That's important, but can be difficult when you're not in the pure sunshine like he is right here down at the bottom.
Sun to start, shade in the middle, in the shadows, and now sun to finish. And Roberto Alessandro is through, and he's got the lead by 3/100ths of a second. So the youngster, the Italian, Alessandro Roberto, pardon me, in the lead as we go now to Christoph Gruber. Gruber, a winner of 2 Super Gs in his career and a giant slalom. He has a victory in this discipline, the 30-year-old Austrian, one of the veterans of that team.
I'm surprised he's even racing. They had a big fall yesterday in the downhill. Spun right around and landed right on his face. So a brave effort here for Gruber. And look at this with the lead, too. Whoa, way wide.
That gate has been a problem. A lot of guys are going wide right there, Brian.
Yeah, it just seemed to put a lot of pressure on his edges, just got shot way out, made such a good turn. You just get your skis shot way out into the powder, and that will definitely slow him down. But, hey, he's happy to finish this run after that big fall yesterday.
So Christoph Gruber making a mistake there, can't overtake Alessandro Roberto. He's well back, and so the young Italian has the lead. Steve Messillier of France, who's just 21 years old himself, in second spot, and then several Austrians stacked up in behind. Yes, there's lots of snow in Colorado these days, and will Thomas Grandy come up with a result? We'll see him and Francois Bourque as well when we come back. Welcome back to our coverage of the men's giant slalom from Beaver Creek, Colorado, the first GS of the year in the men's World Cup circuit. We are well into the second run with the young Italian Alessandro Roberto holding the lead as we move along now to Thomas Grandy, who was 15th after the first run, his first appearance in a GS this season, but he starts with a deficit of 1.5 seconds. It'll be tough to make up all that. Pardon me, 1.43 seconds, but let's see if he can pick up a few spots.
And that mistake right at the bottom of the run cost him definitely into the top 10, maybe into the top 5. Skied very well up top on the first run. Got to try and put it together again here on this second. The guys say the most difficult thing on this Birds of Prey giant slalom is all the blind rolls. And you come over those like driving down a country road on the gravel road, and you don't know if coming over that rise if that road's going to go straight or not. You just have to trust your instincts, and Thomas has been here enough. He's inspected this course, knows exactly what to do, but made that big mistake on the first run.
Well, that looks good right there. If you see a green number popping up, it's good. 2.26 seconds.
Whoa, lost his edge on that left-footed turn there. That's where he made a mistake in the first run. Not going to do it again early into his tuck.
This will be tight here. Can Grandy overtake the lead and at least move up a little bit? Yes, he does, by nearly 0.2 of a second. A great second run there for Thomas Grandy.
One little mistake right in the middle, having a kiss of those Rossi skis. Wish they would have bit a little bit more in that turn. You can see him leaning down in the inside, dipping that right shoulder, and that's going to make your left ski not carve perfectly, but a pretty good run from Grandy.
All right, look out for this guy. He was only 13th after the first run was a little unusual. This is 28-year-old Benjamin Reich, the overall World Cup champion last year. He was also first in the giant slalom standings based on 3 wins last year. Watch out for him now.
Yeah, and he will win the overall again, no question about it. As far as I'm concerned, he's just too good.
Well, look at that already.
Yeah, it's unbelievable how good he is in slalom and in giant slalom. He said this year I want to try and win a Super G or win a downhill. And hey, if he stays healthy, forget about it. The rest of the field, he is going to win the overall World Cup. Just that consistent of a skier. Wow.
He's increasing the margin. He had a half a second lead in the early interval. That's increased to 0.8 of a second now. So Benjamin Reich is really laying down a fast run here.
Well, you don't expect him to be way back in 14th position after the first run wearing that red leader bib. This is more like the Benjamin Reich we're used to seeing.
We are seeing the champion at work here right now. Benjamin Reich will take the lead. It's just a question of how much. Well, he lost a little bit back, gave a little bit back there in the second part of the course, but still, that's a healthy lead now for Benjamin Reich, with 12 still to go ahead of him. And let's have a look now at 22-year-old Francois Bourque.
12th after the first run, 6th here last year. He's got good confidence going into this from that experience he gained last year.
There's Reich's time just on top of Bourque.
A little bit wide going into that section. I'm worried that this lead may not stand up coming out of the flat section of the course. He can't skid wide and lose your speed because there's no chance of gaining any momentum on the flat part of the course.
Well, Reich was very quick over the first part and the second half of the first part of the course, if you will. But Bourque is very quick as well. Let's see what he does here. He's still ahead of Reich's time, and Reich lost some down at the bottom.
Just hanging on to it. Really nice skiing down the pitch. That's what Frank's best at, making those great turns, switching those skis quickly, staying in a nice, solid, aggressive position.
Francois Bourque of New Richmond, Quebec, 22 years old, having a great second run, and he's moved into the lead. He's pushed Reich back down into second spot. What a terrific finish for Francois Bourque.
You don't see Reich too happy there, leaving that area quickly.
I don't think he expected this from Francois Bourque.
Now you can see Reich shaking his head a little bit, knowing he made a mistake, but that's what all the guys seem to be doing. Bourque, a little bit of problems in that same turn that we saw Thomas Grandy, but he stands in the lead right now, and that's a good performance so far.
Good performances from the Canadians here with just 11 skiers still to go. Bourque and Grandy in position at least for top 10 finishes, although this is far from over just yet. But well done to Bourque and Grandy here in the second run of the giant slalom from Beaver Creek. Winding down to the last skiers in the second run for the men's giant slalom. Francois Bourque and Thomas Grandy, carrying the Canadian flag, have done very well so far with a shot at a top 10 finish, but it all depends on what happens with the last few racers here, and we begin with the man who was 11th after the first run. This is Axel Lund Svindal of Norway. Had a terrific season last year, finishing 2nd overall.
And a nice day to start this racing series off here in the weekend in Beaver Creek with that win in the Super Combined. He was only 14th in the downhill yesterday, but this is a heck of an all-rounder skier. And if you want to talk about somebody challenging Benjamin Reich other than an Austrian, this would be the guy that you would look to. Especially now that Chatil Andre Amott's out. He was in Lake Louise only running because he's had some injury problems with his knee. But he's taking some time off now because that just hasn't come around as quickly as he had hoped. Look at Svindal.
Well, he's bumped Bork out of the #1 position, at least for now. Svindal won the Super G here last year. Trying to turn it into a giant slalom win here this year. Svindal from Norway. Great interval, faster than Bork. Here he comes now through the finish line. Bork's time to beat on top. Svindal has done it by a big chunk. 9/10 of a second for Axel Lund Svindal of Norway. Now let's quickly go back up top. 29-year-old Didier Defago, 9th after the first run. Mainly a speed skier. He's got a win in Super G. He's not usually that competent in giant slalom, but we'll see.
That was just an amazing run by Svindal. For such a bigger guy to be so good in giant slalom, able to move that massive 6'4" frame back and forth as quickly as some of the smaller athletes like you see Defago and some of the Italians, and a huge lead. That's unbelievable.
Bork gets bumped down to 2nd now with Svindal in the top position.
And
Sorry, Brian, go ahead.
It's about time Defago put something together. He's always kind of lingered around the teens, and 21st in the downhill yesterday, and not having a great run here today. Just a couple too many mistakes from Defago in each of the events, it seems like.
Well, there's Svindal's lead time, who has just unseated Francois Bork. Defago coming through, won't catch him, not by a long shot, but it is good enough for 2nd because there's a big gap right now. That run by Svindal, as you pointed out, was so quick, and so Defago slips into 2nd. Now from the whatever became of him department, here's 34-year-old Hermann Maier, 53 World Cup wins now. But you know what, Brian, I think this might be the first time we haven't talked about Maier on a show until late into the show.
That's amazing. We haven't spoken words of the Herminator yet, but what an outstanding guy this guy is. Just seems more relaxed and confident this year. Still really motivated. And it's amazing to me that he's still around. His leg is still really beat up from that motorcycle accident from a few years ago. He said it doesn't bother him too much. He doesn't think about it. It's just something he has to live with now.
Maier finished 6th overall on the World Cup circuit last year. He was 8th fastest in the first run here today, but as you can see by the times, it appears as though maybe Hermann Maier just starting to slip a little bit. Time, the old man time, catching up with him.
When they almost have to amputate your leg after a motorcycle injury, it's amazing that Hermann Maier is still able to ski down this birds of prey as a recreational skier, not as a World Cup racer and a guy who's contending for the lead here.
That time puts him nearly a 2nd back and in 4th place. So regardless of the outcome, that's still a good result there for Hermann Maier, but he never likes to be off the podium. That won't satisfy him. Here is Davide Simoncelli now, the Italian, the 27-year-old Italian. 2 career wins in the giant slalom. We saw him in the first run. We are getting down to the nitty-gritty. He was 7th after the first run. Only a handful still to come.
Didn't really look like he was making any mistakes there, but half a second out. Surprising for a guy who's normally very aggressive. Really linking up those turns nicely in the middle, but I'm afraid that time that he's lost up top has cost him down here.
Well, you remarked at the time how quick Svindal was just as he was finishing, and that seems to be the prophecy coming true here right now, because nobody's been able to touch Svindal since.
We gotta wait a few guys till Bode Miller comes, though.
Well, there are a few, but however, Svindal challenged by Simoncelli here, and Simoncelli won't do it. Third place, 7/10 back. So a good run for Simoncelli, but on this day when Axel Lund Svindal has nailed it, nobody so far has been able to come close. Bork and Grandy still inside the top 10. Bork has a better shot of it than Grandy does, however, with several still to come. But Svindal in the lead, DeFago second, Simoncelli, the Italian, is sitting in third spot.
And by Bombardier, sponsor of the Canadian Alpine Ski Team, and proud of it.
It's all on the line right now in Beaver Creek, Colorado. This is Ted Ligety, who is fourth after the first run. Probably the best young skier on the U.S. team. Remember, he won the Olympic combined. He won a giant slalom last year. At least you're telling me he's the best in the U.S. team, the best young skier.
Yeah, the best young up-and-comer. Just a real talent in slalom and even in super combined, where he was that Olympic champion last year. He was only 10th here on Thursday in that event, but this guy knows how to put it together, and give him some credit. Skiing with a broken finger, he actually fractured his diagonal fracture of the second metacarpal bone to his index finger. Did that in pit stall in October, and it still hasn't come around properly.
Dr. Stemmel, I want you to point out exactly what bone that is in my finger, because I have no idea what you're talking about. But anyway, a broken finger. Ted Ligety is back on course and looking to do some damage here, although his times are just a little bit off in the intervals here.
If he's number one in the finish, he'll be holding up that finger for sure if he can keep it going down here. Looks like he's carrying a lot of speed into this final pitch.
Just 22 years old. Svindal's electric run from earlier still holding up. Will it through here? Yes. Ligety is as close as anybody has come, but he's still 3/100ths, an agonizing 3/100ths of a second off the pace, and he knows how close he was. Third after the, fourth after the first run, Didier Couch. The veteran, 32 years old, from Switzerland. A winner in just about every discipline but slalom. He has won a GS before.
Second to Bode Miller in the downhill yesterday. He also switched equipment like Bode Miller, both of them switching to head skis, and just a very finicky guy, always tinkering with his boots and his equipment. So he's had difficulty in the summer and in the fall finding that right setup. But man, did he figure it out yesterday. And obviously has done that as well today. If he can hang on to this top position, he's looking at a podium.
Svindal, remember, was 11th after the first run, but his time has held up right down to the bitter end here. Only a couple to go after Didier Couch.
He's also healthy this season too, which is a big difference. You don't have to worry about those nagging injuries that are lingering when you're going down this course. Just concentrate on blasting down it, and he's looking really sharp here.
Couch will be close to Svindal as well, but won't do it. Half a second back puts him into third spot. Ligety and Couch, second and third right now, behind Axel Lund Svindal. Second fastest from the first run, this man right here, Massimiliano Blardone of Italy, 27 years old, 2 giant slalom wins under his belt. Does he have what it takes to finally unseat Svindal?
You would think after Svindal was so far back, but what an exceptional second run. You think one of these last 2 guys has to do it, either Blardone or Miller, and here we go.
Good looking interval there for Blardone. Yeah, remember Svindal was 85/100ths back to start the second run.
This is where it all counts down here at the bottom. We've seen some guys make mistakes, not being able to make up any time, but Blardone is really doing it. He's picked up 0.3 of a second now in that middle section. This is the kind of skiing that we expect from the Italians.
Blardone on the verge of picking up career win number 3 in the giant slalom, but he has not beat Svindal yet, and remember, Bode Miller is still to come. Here's Blardone now. Will he be the man finally to do it against Svindal? Yes, he does. Not by much. 4/100ths. So Blardone takes the lead. and you move Kush and Ligety down, Blardoni is the man on top right now. However, it all comes down to this. Bode Miller trying to defend his championship here and win the GS in 2006. Fastest after the first run, last man out of the gate now.
And watch out here, folks. This could be something spectacular again from Bode Miller. After that great downhill win yesterday, we're going to see him charge again down here, just holding back tiny bit up top. Wow, here we go.
Bode Miller, 4/10 of a 100 of a second lead at that interval. So Bode Miller is on the verge of doing it again here. Back-to-back wins, perhaps. Oh, no!
Wow. I think he just cost himself a victory there. Went right through that red panel at the top of the red-tailed jump.
I was about to say back-to-back wins in the downhill and now the giant slalom. Just as I said that, one mistake and then another one.
You just know that's going to happen from Bode Miller. Known for the big recoveries, but when you make huge mistakes like that, forget about it. You're going to be way back. These other guys are just too good.
Mistakes for Bode Miller. And how far back will that put him? It won't even be a top 10 thanks to that. He had the interval times, but ends up more than a full second behind. Out of the top 10, Bode Miller finishes in 12th. Congratulations to Blardoni, the Italian team, celebrating as he picks up his third career win in giant slalom in the first race of the season here in the 2006-2007 season. So the final results go like this. Blardoni wins it. Svindal with a terrific second run, finishing second. The American Ligety in third. Two Swiss skiers following him, Kush and Defago. Canadian situation looks like this. Francois Bourque was able to hang on to a top 10. Congratulations for him, finishing in 9th spot. Thomas Grandy gets bumped down and finishes in 14th position. Once again, though, it's Massimiliano Blardoni. 2 giant slalom wins heading into this season, and he picks up another one.
And Max, as he's better known, skied very, very well, making no mistakes in that second run. Just a good, consistent, aggressive run. But, wow, big mistake for Bode Miller, that's for sure.
And so after just one race, it's pretty obvious what the standings would be. It would be based on today's race only. Blardoni takes the 100 points, Svindal the 80, Ligety the 60 for third spot, but points as well for Francois Bourque, finishing inside the top 10.